Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to class. Hope everyone is doing well. Today, we are going to start with the third day of business skills training. And I'd like to welcome our presenter, Graham, back to today's meeting. Good morning, Graham, and welcome back.
Good morning, Anisha. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. And you may start up with the session once you are ready.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm just going to share my screen for the first time today. The format and timing of today's session is the same as yesterday. I will begin my presentation, and before the first break in about an hour, I will pause and take some of the questions that you will ask during that session, and Anisha will select the representative questions from the group, and I will do the same just 15 minutes before the end. So please send in questions through the Q&A function, and they will all be read by Anisha and Nick, the two co-hosts, and I will do my very best to answer the questions as fully as I can. Now, today's topic is about sales planning and sales process. And as before, when we were talking about marketing, if you work in any other part of the organization or any other kind of business, even a public sector organization, you might be thinking, well, what's sales got to do with me? Well, everybody sells something. They sell ideas, they sell actions, they sell a way of doing something, influence and persuasion. So, an understanding of how your organization sells its products or services, I think, is very, very important. But before we do that, let's think back to yesterday. We covered a lot of information to do with the principles of marketing. So let's just review the questions that I set for you at the end of the presentation, and let's see what the answers are. The first question is, what is the role and function of marketing within a business? Number one is provide market research. And number two is to allocate promotional budgets. Now, of course, the other two are true, but these are the main functions, I believe. Number two, marketing is about satisfying customer wants. A need and a want are two different things. And what we need to do in marketing is understand the preferences and the desires a customer has, and then satisfy those. The marketing microenvironment is concerned with factors inside the organization, and the macro, of course, is outside. The four P's. Promotion is the fourth one missing from the list. We have product or service, of course, the price, how people pay, the place where it's distributed, and the promotion is how people hear about a product or service, or maybe some offers and incentives to purchase. So, number five, when launching a new product, the most important thing is spotting a gap in the market. Now, this could be a demand that's not being met by another business. It could be doing something slightly different that people want, but is not being provided either locally or globally, if you like. As we spoke of yesterday, one of the example businesses was Amazon. There was no company or business like Amazon in the world until Amazon started. Very soon, many other retailers moved their businesses online. But it was Amazon who truly spotted the gap in the market and the potential for what online purchasing could be. As did Elon Musk when he set up PayPal. People needed a secure way of paying for goods online that would guarantee a refund if it didn't all work out well. That was PayPal. A gap in the market is the number one thing that you need to know when you launch anything new in marketing terms. Number six, a product life cycle is the graph of sales over time. And of course, it builds slowly, plateaus, and drops. And how long that time is depends very much on the product. A car will have a much longer product life cycle than a smartphone or a famous brand of running shoes. So A is the answer for number seven. Number eight might surprise you, but when we say best, we mean the cheapest and most effective. Word of mouth marketing. This, by the way, is one of the most important ways that news or information spreads about websites. Somebody shares a link or tells a friend or a colleague about something, and it just grows and grows and grows and grows, almost faster than any advertising or online promotion can do. Which is the most effective way of hearing the customer's voice? Well, surprisingly, it's complaints. Of course, mystery shopper and all the other ways are important, but a complaint is telling you where you're missing the customer's desires, wants, or expectations. And number 10, we looked at this calculation, this equation of the net promoter score. How many people would recommend your business to a colleague or friend versus how many wouldn't? And the difference is called your net promoter or NPS. So there we have it. Those were the 10 questions from yesterday. Today, as you can see from the screen, we have 4 modules: sales planning, prospecting and business development, sales presentation skills, and closing the sales case. You will notice that straight away we've got some jargon, we've got some strange terminology. What is prospecting? What is closing? Don't worry, if these are new terms to you, I will explain these in a way that makes clear and 100% sense. So, as I go through this presentation today, I'm going to use 3 examples. The first one is selling a business to business advertising or exhibition space. The second is property sales, either for lettings or rental, either for residential or any purpose. And this could be, of course, business to business if you're working in an office, sales environment, or an investment property team, or indeed selling to people looking for a home. And the third one is probably one we're all familiar with, is luxury retail sales, where you're selling high value, high quality items to what we call in the sales business discerning consumers, people who are appreciative of quality and good service. So this is the exhibition space. Um, any size of exhibition. The people exhibiting need to be sold the space, and it usually isn't cheap. So that needs good salespersonship. The second thing, of course, is property. This is a very big decision for most people, where you're going to live and are you going to invest in a property. This takes skill for the salesperson. And finally, if you're going to spend $3,500 on a handbag, you want to make sure it's a nice handbag. And you want to make sure the salesperson is treating you well. So we're going to look at this aspect as well. Of course, it's not just handbags. It could also be cars or clothes or watches or cameras or anything which is, shall we say, a luxury item. Now, sales planning. I spent many years in my career in sales. My first sales team, I was just over 30, was 60 people. My last sales team, when I was head of sales performance at a company called Thomson Reuters, comprised of 550 sales, support, and account managers across 7 countries. Over the years, I've learned a lot about sales planning, and I'd like to share those ideas with you. It is probably one of the most important things about selling is the planning and the beginning of the process, and avoiding the mistakes that so many people make. So let's have a look. Big picture first. Let's start with the big picture. The 7 stages of a sales cycle. Well, you've got to make contact with them. You have to qualify them, as we say, which means judging if they are a potential customer. You then nurture your prospect, which means you engage and you develop them forward. And that really means asking questions and uncovering what they're looking for, presenting your offer, whatever it is you're selling, overcoming. Now, objections is another word. An objection is something that follows the two words yes, but. So if I was showing someone around a property and I said, "So what do you think, Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Do you like this property?" And they go, "Yes, yes, it's very nice, but okay, it's out of our budget, or the kitchen's too small, or we've still got some other properties to see." So it's a yes, but. Now, a salesperson should be able to overcome or answer some of those. Then you ask for an order, you close the sale. In many cases, a sale will close itself. The customer turns around and says, "Okay, this is great. Can I take it today?" And the salesperson says, "Yes, of course." Sometimes, though, probably about a third to 50% of the time, well, the customer, "I'm not sure. Let me think about it." Now, the part that is the one we'll talk about separately is the prospecting. And that's where you find potential prospects. So, prospecting, if you took the word from, if you were panning for gold or looking for oil, or trying to find hidden treasure or diamonds, you'll be prospecting. You're looking under rocks. You're looking in lots of places and hoping you will find gold or oil or minerals of some kind. And when you found that gold, that's when the sales cycle starts. So these are the stages of the sales cycle. And the sequence, by the way, is important. You might want to think about which is the most difficult. Well, they all require skill, but the two most difficult are probably the prospecting and making contact. Just in the same way, if you started to move a car, you need more energy to move it from standing to rolling. It is true for a customer, as you'll see. If you work as let's say, a business to business salesperson, you might cover a territory or a group of accounts. That's a fancy word for customers. So let's imagine that you are a sales representative working for a company that makes dental products and supplies, and you sell to dentists and orthopedic teeth surgeons, dental implant companies. So basically, dentists. And in your local area, let's say there's 600 dentists. Now, your territory plan would be to calculate a model of how you could call on, visit, or phone all of those contacts, all of those dentists in a 3 or 4 month period. And in that call, you will discuss their stock requirements, what products they might need, what's selling, and maybe introduce some new products and services. You will quickly learn that not all 600 of those dentists are worth calling on. So you bring it down to, let's say, 400. And of those 400, 200 are more important. So you begin to filter, and maybe you call on the 200 more important more frequently, calling on the 400, the other 200 less frequently, and the last 200 just occasionally. So this is the idea of visit interval. Now, this is a real skill, how you manage your territory. So you're not making a lot of mileage or a lot of empty calls, but still covering the most important customers. And this is something that you need to do by mapping out not just where your customers are, but the value of calling on them. In terms of exploiting new areas for business, a good salesperson always has an eye out for new business. It's what we call an opportunity radar. And omni-channel or multi-channel marketing is the new buzzword. So obviously we have online website advertising. We may have print advertising in newspapers and magazines, or even posters and billboards and highways. You have a website. Maybe you have a business card. You can run telephone seminars or webinars. There's brochures in the post, direct mail. Surprisingly, still effective for some things. For example, luxury retail. A brochure in the post can actually create sales much more than you would expect. Email, of course, and there's many different forms of that, whether it's promotional or newsletters or informational and so on. Online videos, very, very important. Product demonstrations, product training, influencers on things like Instagram, demonstrating a product. I know, for example, many real estate agents now will actually have some very professional videos of a property they post on their website. So people can actually see the property from the video before they view the property. Now you'll think, well, maybe they won't view if they see it online, but it actually increases viewings. Here's another one. I About a year ago, I was on a website for a car. I was looking at a new car, and suddenly a little bot popped up and said, "Hello, would you like a video tour of the car?" And it was a live person in the garage, in the showroom, and they used their phone to give me a guided tour of the car on live video. And I could ask questions and I could say, "Stop, go back. Can you show me that again?" It was absolutely brilliant. It saved me, in a way, going all that way to see a car I wasn't really interested in, to the garage, that is. But in actual fact, it made me want to test drive it more. Articles, white papers, information, printed brochures, and prices are important. Obviously, blog sites, social media sites, broadcast media, and so it goes on and on and on. The trick is to be everywhere all at once. If you're launching a new handbag, or you're promoting a range of expensive bicycles, for example, you want to be at every point getting the customer's attention. In terms of prospecting, where we are contacting, let's say, a list, then what we need to do is specify our ideal prospect. We mentioned yesterday about marketing in terms of the type of company or business, their location, their psychology, and we make a list. And the secret here is to have a written list of target prospects. Now, let me explain the jargon for a moment. A prospect is somebody who could potentially be a customer. It's an inbound inquiry. It's someone walking into your showroom or shop. It's an existing customer who's asked you for more information about something new. They are potentially a customer. A suspect, on the other hand, is somebody who is just a name, but they haven't said they're interested, at least not yet. And of course, a customer is somebody who has purchased from you. So when you've got your list of customers, you then identify ways to meet them. You divide into two lists, need and want. You develop the questions for each prospect type. You set some goals and expectations of how many people you want to contact in a particular time, and you schedule time to prospect. Now, let me give you an example. Let's imagine that you work for an exhibition company, and the next exhibition is in March 2021. So we've got just under a year to find 200 companies to take exhibition stand space. The stand space varies from $5,000 to $50,000, depending on the size of the stand and all the extras involved. So small, medium, and large companies. Now, maybe what you need to find is a certain number of small companies to take the large number of 120 stands, which are under $10,000. But you would like to find one or two, let's call them showcase customers, because if you know, let's imagine that someone like 3M took one of the large stands. If you mention that to other prospects, you could say, well, 3M have taken a stand, and they go, wow, that's amazing. I will as well. You need to develop questions because that's how you build a sale. You have your list of prospects. Let's say you have 150 companies to start with, and you're going to call them up and you're going to say, I'd like to ask you some questions before I tell you about an event we have coming up next year. And you set a goal for how many you want to talk to. Let's imagine you want to speak to 10 people a day. And that may mean you have to dial 50 dials, 50 numbers to get 10 people. And then you set your time aside, maybe 2 hours a day, every morning for prospecting. Now, of course, you'll be doing other things outside of that, sending out proposals, meeting with people, planning, and so on. So this is a prospecting action plan. Get a list of prospects, divide it down, set your questions, set your goals, allocate time. It sounds simple, but it's surprisingly tricky with everything else you have to do as a salesperson. The sales call, let me give you some suggestions and ideas here. At the top of the pyramid, what we want to do, of course, is make the sale and serve the customer. Now, going back down, we have to start with the relationship. Always sell yourself first. What do I mean by that? TLC, trust, liking, and credibility. The way you walk, the way you talk, the politeness, the manners, the way you make the customer feel important. Your body language, your facial expression, a nice smile, a welcoming shop or showroom. All are really, really important. In selling, one of the most powerful things you can get as a salesperson is a referral from an existing customer because you have the relationship and they say, go and see David, he will sort you out. So then you qualify the prospect. Excuse me. Simple questions like, how can I help you today? When are you looking to make a decision? Have you ever used this product service before? Then you look for their needs and requirements. You present your product information and provide a solution if that's part of the service. Ask for an order, serve the customer. And you can see as we go through, this pyramid determines the amount of time you spend on each section. So you would spend far more time asking questions, qualifying and building rapport than you would presenting. And we'll look at this again in more detail. But while we're on this slide, let me tell you that one of the tips I would give you is try to get the customer talking about 50% of the time, particularly in the first part of the sales process. So I walk into, I don't know, let's say I walk into a computer retailer or I walk into a luxury boutique. Now, the worst thing the salesperson can do is to jump on you and start to try and sell you whatever it is they have on offer that day. Our latest perfume is a 30% discount. Would you like one? Almost certainly the customer's going to say no. So you start off making eye contact, being friendly. Hello, how are you today? Is there anything I can help you with particularly? No, I'm just browsing, thank you. Okay, I'll be over there if you have any questions. It's that kind of trust and rapport we're looking for. And you know as a customer how you like to be sold to. Now, if we are a salesperson, every single call, every visit from a customer, every meeting, every phone call must have an objection. Sorry, an objective. Must get that right. An objective. This is a goal. This is something I want to achieve. The fact is with selling, you're going to get rejection. You're going to get a lot of people walk into your store and walk out without buying anything. If you're selling properties, you're going to have a lot of people say, no, I don't like it, until somebody says, yes, I love it. If you're selling exhibition space, You're going to have a lot of people tell you it's too expensive, we don't do exhibitions, it's not worth it, until you find one that says, yes, great, I'd like to go ahead. So you need to structure your goals so that you always feel like you're winning. Must, intend, like. The must is the minimum I want to achieve. The intend is what I hope to achieve. And my like is my dream objective. So I make a phone call. I say, hello, Abdullah. My name is Graham. I'm calling from Wonder Exhibitions. I'd like to see if you're interested in exhibiting at our next expo in March 21. Now, my minimum objective is to make a good impression, to be able to send some more information. My intention is to create a second meeting to go through the exhibition in more detail and provide a proper quotation and proposal. Like, well, if things go really well, I'd like to make a sale on the first call. And that's not likely to happen, but it can happen sometimes. So, what that means is whenever I finish a phone call and I end the conversation, I've always achieved something. And this is an important psychology. So somebody walks into the store, looks at one of your handbags, you spend 20 minutes chatting to them and showing them all the different models, and they go, oh, that's great. Thank you. You've been so helpful. And they walk out. Are they going to come back? You don't know. But the fact is, you did a good job. You kept them in the store, you made friends, you had some laughter, they liked what you were telling them. The minimum objective is to always leave the door open. Make it easy for them to come back. Okay. Now, do's and don'ts of the sales call. Let's look at this. I'm going to just go through this and give you 2 or 3 do's and don'ts. On the slide here, you will see these 4 stages of connect, consult, convince, and commit. These are the steps to making a sale. First of all, you build rapport, you ask questions, you present your product or service, and you get the customer to say, yes, I'd like to go ahead, or I'd like to take it. Do, number 1, as we mentioned, get the customer talking quickly and early. Do, always match and model the customer, pace the customer's behaviors. If they talk quite slowly, you talk quite slowly. If they are very serious, then you are serious. If they're really friendly and hello, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. How are you? Trust me, they won't notice. People like people who are like they are. And this is a familiarity. It's a form of unconscious bias. Okay, so do always try and get into sync with your customer and then find something in common, where you live, what sort of football team you support, things you may have in common, views and values. Once you've found something in common with someone, this common ground begins to build a bridge. Do always keep eye contact. Eye contact is so important. What about the phone, Graham? Well, you can't make eye contact on the phone, but you can listen carefully. And when you make eye contact, by the way, you're signaling to someone that you're paying attention. And having someone make eye contact with you is very flattering in a deep psychological way. So, what do we not do? We don't talk too much. We don't tell the customer about our product or service until we've understood what their wants, desires, requirements are, and we've built rapport. We don't interrupt the customer, ever, right? We don't argue with the customer. We can win the argument, but we'll lose the customer. We don't ever try and tell the customer that we know better than them. We may suggest options and alternatives they should look at, but we need to keep in mind the customer is always right, or they have the opportunity to be of an opinion which they believe to be right, of course. Don't ever leave the customer alone for too long, and don't let the customer leave without at least having a chance to close to the next step, to get a closing commitment to the next call, to receiving a price, or coming back in later. So these are the few do's and don'ts. All right. And there's many, many more, but this is a simple thing. And do, of course, follow the process. Follow the process. Now, if we were doing a business to business sale, like the exhibition or maybe a property investment, we would have certain leads coming in. And these may be generated from the website or from email marketing or some advertising campaign. Very important to carefully follow those leads up and document them in some form of CRM or computer relationship management system, I should say, or a spreadsheet or somewhere where you can track and follow them through. You connect with that sales call and you keep following it up. The timing between the calls and the follow up is quite important. And during the conversion of inquiry to sale, you have certain obstacles and you do need a certain amount of persistence. Let me talk you through an example. Let's imagine you have a commercial property for sale, and the financial director of a local company phones up and says, I'm interested in finding out more about the warehousing facility you've advertised on your website. And you say, great, I can help you with that. Let me take down some information. So you ask the client some questions, the name of the company, their contact information, why they need it, when they're looking to go ahead. And then you say, I will send you an email with the information you require on the warehouse. Great. Now, when do you call them back? When do you try and arrange a visit to see the property? Well, the thing we've found is there's very little benefit in waiting. If you send them a PDF today, call them tomorrow. When you call them, try and get them to visit that property to have a look and do an inspection visit the next 2 or 3 days. When they've done the inspection visit, call them the very next day. And you can do this very politely, by the way. We tend to prefer a low pressure sales model, not a high pressure sales model. This is one way we help customers to make a buying decision, not being sold to by being told to. There's a wonderful expression that I will use later on today as well, which is telling is not selling. Only asking questions is selling. So when we've sent the particulars through of the property, we phone the customer up and we say, I'm just giving you a quick call to make sure you've received the particulars and if you have any initial questions. And they may or may not, they may have not read them. Okay, but then you say, well, have you any questions? When will you like to visit the property? Not would you like to visit the property, but when would you like? You suggest, well, maybe the particulars obviously have the plan and the layout, but to really appreciate the ease of access and the location, it would be best to visit the property. When would be good for you? So you go through this process. And as we get through this process, you get more and more interest from some people and less interest from other people, and they fall away. So you might start out with, let's say, 20 inquiries for a particular property or warehouse facility, and you end up with only 5. We call these our pipeline. This is our pipeline of best few prospects. Now, the obstacles you're going to face are you can't get hold of people on the phone. They don't reply to your emails. They're too busy to visit. It's over their budget. There's something they don't like about it. They have to get somebody else's decision, and they're busy as well. They're waiting for financing to come through, and so on and so on and so on. So that's where the persistence comes through. But what it needs is organized persistence. So if I phone this warehouse financial director about the warehousing facility, and he says, look, to be honest with you, we did like the facility. It will satisfy our logistical needs for storage and warehousing. However, we can't do anything until we get over the end of our financial year in 6 weeks' time. I'm just too busy to look at anything else. Okay, fine. I'll give you a call in about 7 weeks. Now, I need some method of putting that in the diary or a CRM system or an Outlook or something, so it pops up in 7 weeks' time and say, call Fayad about the warehousing facility. Now you're thinking, well, that's not difficult, Graham. You just put it in the diary. Well, it isn't difficult, but if you're dealing with, let's say, 60 or 70 people, it can be quite easy, trust me, quite easy to not only forget to call people, but also to mix them up. And what was it Fire was interested in? So you do need to be very organized in terms of notes and future callbacks and planning. And then you just keep calling. It's very, very important to not give up. A study from Dun and Bradstreet showed that 50% of sales are made after the third closing attempt, and 80% are made after the fifth. So it's only after the fourth or fifth call or meeting or discussion that people go, yeah, I like this, I'm going to take it. So this is an important principle. Now, that was the essence of professional selling. And I gave you a very simple overview just so you can grab hold of the key information you need. Now, I'd like to explain more about the prospecting and business development. If you remember the 7 stages cycle, these were the two at the top: prospecting and making contact. So, this is an overview here of what I consider to be the best ways to develop new business, and particularly how to make appointments by telephone. Now, this clearly is important in a business to business environment, but also can work in a business to consumer model as well, as you'll see. So, for example, a few years ago, I did some work for a chain, a group of dental surgeries. And they said, can we do some training with you? And I said, sure. What do you need training on? And they said, sales techniques. And I said, sales techniques? Why would a dentist need sales techniques? And they said, we need to grow our customer base. So we want to train some people to phone people at home and say, would you like to join our new dentist practice? Okay. And it was surprisingly effective. It really was much more than I thought. A lot of people said, great, yes, I'd like to. I've been thinking of changing my dentist, or I need to organize a new dentist. So even in a business consumer space, cold calling, or warm calling, as it's also known, is very important. And by the way, I will explain what those phrases mean of cold calling and warm calling in just a moment. Now, as we mentioned before, it's about a big funnel. You put lots of stuff in the top, and then they whittle down, and you have a few sales at the end. And this is the concept of sales. You start off by lots of activity, usually from marketing, generating leads and inquiries. This then trickles down to a shorter list of prospects. And by the way, the drop between leads to prospects can be 30 to 40%. If I have 100 inquiries through the website or through some in promotional event, it may only produce 50 or 60, let's say, target leads of any good. I may only then have another 20 or 30% of prospects and qualified leads. So you do have this attrition sometimes, and it could be that from the 10 in the top, you only have one converted. So this is what keeps marketing people very busy. Leads, sales calls, follow-up, conversion, and sales. Now, this is why it's so important to always work on existing leads. The first time you call somebody, they're going to say, no, I'm not interested. Even if they've inquired. This is a crazy thing. You have an inquiry through the website about your exhibition in 2021, and you phone them and you say, thank you very much for your inquiry. How can I help you? And they say, oh, well, I just wanted some information to find out what it's all about. You just want some information to find out what it's all about? Absolutely. I'll send that over to you now. And then you get nothing back. get nothing back, get nothing back. You keep calling, you keep email, you keep calling. And then one day you phone them and they say, yeah, actually, we've just been talking about this yesterday, one of our management meetings, and I think it would be something we should look at. Ta-da! So timing is one of the most important things about selling, but it's something we can't control. It also affects marketing as well. So let's take a customer that comes in one day into your store and really likes one of the bracelets, but they can't really afford it then. And anyway, they've already got a bracelet very similar. And then they come back and they come back. And then one day they come in and say, I'm going to buy that bracelet now. And something has changed in their life that means they're now in the market. So this is why, as a salesperson, you always have to keep in contact with people at every stage of the sales process, even after they have purchased. All right. So it's very important to always work carefully on existing leads. Interestingly, one of the most successful salespeople I ever worked with had a very, very simple process. And he had a big wall in front of his desk. And he got these little post-it notes. And every time he had a lead or a customer, he'd write the customer's name on the post-it note and he'd stick it on the wall. And every day he would come in and look up at his wall and he'd think, oh, I haven't phoned them for a while. He'd give them a call. And then move them around in terms of the higher you wear, the better likely chance of selling, and the down the bottom is not so good. But he could just see all his prospects in one glance. And of course, we do things similar to that on a spreadsheet or a CRM system, but he never missed a callback. He always kept in contact with people. And when he left the company, you wouldn't believe the number of emails we had from people saying, oh, I'm going to miss John so much. It's crazy. So find a way that you can work on existing leads. And just on another point of this, I was talking to a colleague of mine who had been made redundant from his company, no fault of his own. The company had closed down their sales office, and he got another job. But he got a job about 4 months later. It took him longer than he thought of. And I said, well done. I said, out of interest, can I ask how many applications you sent off? He said 78. He had 78 applications. He had over 50 first interviews. He had 27 second interviews and 11 third interviews. And he got a job, right? But it didn't stop him following up. Every time he sent out an application, he phoned. When they said, we're still looking at it, he gave them a week and he phoned. So you can use this principle for almost anything, whether you're looking for a job, you're trying to get personal sponsorship on maybe in a hobby or an investment of some kind. So it's the same principle. Now, cold calling, quite simply, means phoning somebody you don't know, that they don't know you have never spoken before, and you've never communicated. Now, in some cultures, some countries, this is very difficult. People have if you like, let's say a psychological problem doing this. But if I phone up somebody now and I say, hello, is that Mohammed? Yeah, hello, Mohammed. Good afternoon to you. My name is Graham. We've never spoken before. You don't know me, but I'd like to come and talk to you about an exhibition I'm holding next year. They can say yes or no, right? Getting hold of them is going to be tricky because they may not take your call because they don't recognize your number. So we have all these issues. But cold calling does actually work. The people that tell you cold calling doesn't work have usually never tried it themselves. So let's go through the process. The first thing is, number one, you need to get their attention. This is obviously your name and company and the reason you're calling, which is number two. The reason I'm calling you today is avoid information overload. Don't talk too much and don't talk too fast. Make your call relevant. Mention something you've researched, about their business or a challenge in their industry. So there's a kind of a connection there. Identify buying triggers. so what they would be interested in. This is the last two, 4 and 5, by the way, are by asking questions, and always be working towards the close. Now, the close doesn't mean to say you're closing the sale. The close, in most cases with a cold call, is for an appointment or a second phone call, maybe an online appointment, an online Zoom call, or maybe to visit a property. Okay, so this is the approach. This is the approach. So let's imagine that you've got a new office block. You're a real estate agent, and you've got a new suite of offices in a fancy new office block. And you decide to cold call some local companies to see if they can come along to a special opening evening you're having with some refreshments and buffet and some talks. And you want them to come along and see the grand opening of this new office suite. So you phone them up and you say, hi, look, my name is Graham. I'm calling from Graham's Property Investments. I'm calling to invite you to a special evening we're having at the opening of our Plaza office suite, which is very, very close to you. And you pause, and then you just give them a few more information, and you tell them, I think it'll be interesting for you. It's a brand new office suite, and there'll be plenty of opportunity there to network and find out more about it. It might be something you'll be interested in either now or in the future. So you're giving the reasons why they want to go. Identifying buying triggers is when they go things like, so when is that? And how long does it last for? Okay, that's a share of interest. So cold calling involves making lots of phone calls in order to get through to somebody, and a very, shall we say, clever approach when you do get through. It is a good method of finding prospects. It's also slightly inefficient because you do have to make a lot of calls in order to get through, right? When you write a cold email, you warm up the phone call. Let me say that again. When you write a cold email to somebody, you warm up the phone call. So what I would recommend is, if this is a situation that you will find yourself in one day, is you send out a small number of emails to target people or companies. And you make those emails as personalized and as clear as possible. And you must follow this AIDA model: attention, interest, desire, and action. The attention is maybe the subject heading. So the attention might be personal invitation to exclusive opening of new office premises. And then as a prestigious local business, I would like to take this opportunity to invite you to an exclusive opening ceremony for the new office suite located at so-and-so on the 3rd of July. So now I've got their interest. At this event, the chief executive of Pinnacle Investments will be speaking, and there'll be an opportunity to meet many other local business people and dignitaries at the networking event, which will be for over 100 people. Refreshments will be served. Now you're making me want to attend. Anyone and everyone's going to be there. It's going to be important. And I'm going to get some free snacks. I want to go, right? In order to secure your place, please click on the link here or phone this number. Attention, interest, desire, action. Now that's my cold email. Bing! I send it off and I wait and I wait and I wait. And I get 2 answers. That's no good. But now I've got a reason to phone them. So I send out 10 emails. The next day I make 10 phone calls. Hello, my name's Graham. I sent you an email yesterday. I just want to make sure you received it. It's an invitation to an exclusive event we have coming up in a month's time. Oh, you saw it but didn't read it. Let me tell you what it's about. So now you've got a warm call, and this is so much more important. Making a warm call is quicker and easier, and it sounds more professional. Now, when you make a warm call, you can warm it up in many, many different ways. And you can see here some of the modern prospecting tools that allow us to warm up our prospects. Email marketing, some form of CRM, social media post, LinkedIn in a business to business contact is really important. Even just today, this morning, I was responding to 2 or 3 inquiries that I sent people messages on LinkedIn. They linked back and said, yeah, that sounds interesting. Can we discuss this? And I'd warmed them up, so now I can call them. Pay-per-click advertising on Facebook or Google or some other Bing search engine can also warm up a client. Events, podcasts, webinars, referrals, and affiliate marketing also warm up the call. Now, interestingly, I go to quite a lot of these online webinars, and many of them are promotional. They're designed to uh, connect me with a company who's selling something. So let's imagine, because of the COVID-19, we do a virtual launch of our Office suite, and we invite people to a podcast and a webinar, and they sit on their computers on Teams and watch the event. Now, what's interesting is that can be very effective, but what do you do afterwards? How do you follow up their interest? Do you call them? Do you email them? You need to have a plan to keep the interest alive. Keep the interest alive. And this is where social media works. So things like obviously Facebook and Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, even in a business to business marketplace, is so important. I know an architect who does a great deal of activity on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook, and they get live leads and inquiries because people see their work, and maybe they're building a refurbished office, or they're building a new home for somebody, and they will put the whole story of that house on Instagram, on Facebook every day. They're putting up 2 or 3 pictures of work being done and nice features and the landscaping being finished, and people connect with them. And maybe they don't say, I'd like you to come round tomorrow and build my house, but they do come back in 6 and 12 months later. Or maybe they recommend them to a friend who says, oh, I'm thinking of having a roof extension done and putting a room in my attic. And they say, oh, you want to have a look at this guy on Instagram? He's just done some fabulous conversions. And they go, what's Instagram? Right? So you're now combining social media with word of mouth marketing. So even if you go, well, yes, but we're a so-and-so company and we don't really do social media, I would suggest you start doing social media, because who knows? And apart from the time it takes to do, and you can find people that do this quite happily, it can make leads easier to find. You'll be surprised sometimes the kind of businesses that do well on social media selling. Even things like Facebook with the marketplace and Twitter, is phenomenal the way companies use it. Now, let's go back to our sales process again. Every business is slightly different and every market is slightly different. So you've got to find the right plan and system for you. But don't forget, the sales process works the same in nearly every business. Prospecting and preparation, approaching the client, finding out what they're interested in, presenting the solution in the way that makes sense to them, dealing with the yes buts, asking for a decision or a commitment, and then looking for a referral or a repeat sale. Now, this is often where the social media works really well, because you can keep in contact with people, existing customers, so effortlessly and so easily, and in a way which is not intrusive. You can encourage them to share the link to your company through referral, through social media, but also repeat sales, right? So this is very important process. One of the classic models in selling for new business is the Anzoff matrix. So what it says, we've got 4 different choices when we're selling, or sales planning, I should say. And this is very much about a sales management or a business level management. So we sell existing products to existing customers, more of the same. We can sell existing products to new customers. We can sell new products to new customers, or we can sell a new product to an existing customer. And that's about your main choices. So let me give an example of the context of the exhibition. So I have an exhibition, and let's imagine I run it every year. So my first place to start is to call all the people that exhibited last year and offer them a space in the next exhibition in 6 months, 9 months, 12 months time. And that's my first campaign. The second campaign is I need to find new companies who have never exhibited at the exhibition before and see if they're interested, because it's only likely that I may have 2/3 repeat business. The other thing I might want to do is then start a new product or service. I may have a new exhibition that I want to sell to the companies that have booked on the other exhibition. This is a diversification strategy, if you like. And this diversification could be even bigger if I have a brand new event in a new location with a completely new set of prospects. Now, as you can imagine, there is effort involved in each of these. It is much easier and contains less effort to sell more of the same to existing customers. It takes a little bit more effort to sell an established product to a new customer, but it takes the most effort of all to sell a new product or service to a new customer set. And that's where you would work very closely with marketing. It would take a great deal of planning and promotional activity. The target that most companies will look at, though, is what we call market development. So new products to existing customers is how you grow your sales base. More of the same tends to hold your sales level. Most organizations expect sales to grow. They see an expectation somewhere between 5 to 15% is a normal expectation of sales growth year on year. Whether you're a supermarket or a car dealership, you want to keep growing your sales. So I would suggest that as a sales planning process, you should aim for 2/3, 66% of your sales from existing products to existing services, and 1/3 of your sales, 30% or more, from new products and services to existing customers, or new customers with the same products you've already been selling for some time. Happy to expand upon that in the Q&A if you'd like me to explain that. We mentioned this yesterday. Cross-selling is how you increase your sales value. You sell people additional things they didn't plan to buy. In the example here, somebody goes into a store interested in an iPhone, and they also come out with a £200 pair of Apple earbuds as well. You buy yourself a $2,000 handbag, and you buy a small purse to go with it for $500. So this is the cross-selling. Upselling is you persuade the customer, or you guide the customer to spend more than they expected to or intended to, because they bought a higher quality or a more expensive item. So if somebody was viewing a property and they had a budget of X, and you persuaded them that if they wanted the kind of property they said, they would have to spend Y, which was 15% higher, you've upsold them. Okay. As a sales professional, you need to be very good at both upselling and cross-selling. And you need to embed it in your whole sales process. Here's an example. Let's imagine you go into a store, you go online, and you buy, let's say, a washing machine. Now, not the most exciting purchase you'll ever make, but an important one. And an expensive one in some cases. So let's imagine you're going to spend $1,000 US on a washing machine, right? At some point, the salesperson, if they're good, will say, would you like to take the extended warranty for an additional 5 years, parts and labor, for $200? Now, most of us will say, no, thank you, that's fine. If the salesperson turns around and says, well, I appreciate that this is a very good quality washing machine, but a washing machine is very mechanical. There's a lot of vibration. And as you have a young family, sir, I suspect you're going to be using this washing machine quite a lot. And if it was out of work, if it wasn't working or out of function for a few days or even a week, it could cause a few problems. So I can offer you complete peace of mind and guarantee your expenditure on any repairs for 5 years for just simply an extra $200 spread over the 5 years or so. You will not pay for any property, any maintenance, any repairs, any parts, any breakdown costs. If it goes wrong, we will fix it within 24 hours or give you a replacement washing machine while it's being repaired. Complete peace of mind. What do you think? So presenting it in a certain way is more likely to be accepted. Now, of course, nothing works 100%, but always think about what else you could sell to somebody and how could you nudge them up the sales process. Now, I'm going to introduce this slide now, and we'll talk about this more after the Q&A and the break. So making appointments for sales is a very, very important part of a business-to-business model. The key skill, as you can see on these three circles, is one, only sell the appointment. Don't talk too much about the product, the service, the exhibition, how good your accountancy service is. Just focus on why would somebody want to meet with you for half an hour of your time? What would they gain? What's the benefit? What will they learn? The value of the appointment has to be something normally that would benefit the customer, not you. Your benefit is you may open the door to a sale. What will they gain? Typically, it's about keeping up to date, learning something new, finding out something they didn't know beforehand. FOMO is quite a good reason to see somebody. I want to stay up to date with things in the marketplace. And the other, and this is more important than you might ever imagine, is don't sound like a salesperson. Sound like a human being. Sound like a friend. Speak slowly, calmly, and with a tone of voice that indicates you're sincere and polite. We'll talk about this in the break in a moment. So what I'd like to do, we've got about 10 minutes or so, just over 10 minutes before we go for our break. Anisha, I'm going to stop my screen there. I see we've got over 30 questions coming through. So I wonder if I could ask you to pick out a few of the questions, and I can try my best to answer those.
Certainly, I've already picked out a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
And yeah, the first question is from Wael Suleiman. And he'd like to know how to build trustworthiness for your product in the market when you're selling the product online.
Okay, very good question. How to build trust in online sales. If you cannot speak to the person over a video or a telephone, you have to obviously do it with text communication and also the web copy. So the things that people have found to be effective is, number one, and this sounds really obvious, but it's so important, is offer a refund, clear money back guarantee, a free of charge return. This will give people confidence that if it isn't right, they can return it. The second thing is make sure all the information you have is very clear and simple. Long explanations, lots of small text tends to make people think that something's wrong. It's like those terms and conditions we see on software, no one ever reads it. So keep it short and simple. Brand names and reassurance of the company build trust. So what was interesting is I mentioned Amazon came online very, very early. When the big names, the big company names like, I don't know, Marks and Spencer's or Harrods or Sony and people like that began to trade online, everyone thought, well, they're going to play second to Amazon. Amazon is so far ahead. But in fact, their sales were very big because they are brand names that people trust. So if you're selling online, try and use the leverage of the brand that you're selling. So if you're selling a Gucci bag or a Ralph Lauren items, they trust that product because they know the quality. So those are a few things I would recommend: testimonials, reviews, subscribe to one of these Trustpilot type reviews. There's many of them now, and this will give consumers and people confidence to sell online. And just the last 12 months, I've seen a lot more of these chat bots. People do like to ask questions, and that can build a lot of trust, having a real life person answering questions. Good question. I like that one. Have we another one, Anisha, please?
Yes, I do. And thank you for answering that question. So next question, this one came in as anonymous one. The question is it right to spend time and effort on a customer who isn't willing to buy now, but is a potential customer in the future?
Is it right to spend time and effort? Um, yes, it is. It is absolutely right to spend time and effort on a customer, but not at the expense of short-term sales. So when you are prospecting, it's a good idea to have a mix of customers are going to make decisions in the next week or 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. And this can often be determined by the size of the customer. So let's go back to my example of I'm calling on dentists, and there's maybe one dentist chain that has 20 surgeries, and they're a very, very large company in relation to all my other small dentists. And they say, well, we have a professional buyer, and we have lots of stock, and we've already got our supplier network set up. And you think this is going to take months and maybe a year before I get any business from this company. But keep going, keep going. We call them sleeping giants, and sleeping giants wake up sometimes. Okay, so yeah, keep going, but keep them on the back burner. Keep them boiling. Keep the plate spinning, but keep busy with short-term, smaller, simple opportunities. But the only two ways you'll lose a sale is giving up too soon and not trying hard enough or clever enough. So definitely persistence is that magic quality in sales. And sometimes it just takes one more call, one more effort, one more reproposal, and just keep going. And I've known sales take 2, 3, 4 years that should have taken 2 or 3 or 4 months. Very, very common. So please, yeah, do keep going, and don't be disappointed. Don't be frustrated. It's just timing. That's all it is. Keep doing the right things. Good. I like that question. I hadn't thought of that question myself. That's a great question. Okay, couple more,
Thank you
Anisha.
for answering that. Yeah. So next one is from Ali Al Hindas,
Yeah,
and he says cold calling has proved to be annoying for certain customers. So
yeah.
how can we manage to cold call without pushing these customers away?
Okay, so good question. Sometimes you catch people and they go, "Well, how dare you call me?" Right? And this happens, right? If that happens, you apologize. I'm ever so sorry. I didn't mean to disturb you. I will send you an email. Thank you very much for your time. Um, in many, many cases, if people answer the phone, they're curious. But I'll tell you one trick I found, and this is a really good tip, and I'd forgotten to mention this, is when you make a cold call, you start off by saying your name really clearly and slowly, so they can hear it properly. Hello, good morning. Is that Mr. Smith? Good morning, Mr. Smith. My name is Graham Phelps. I'm calling from Pinnacle Property. We haven't spoken before, but have you got a moment to talk now? That's the key question. Are you free to speak on the phone for a few minutes? I'm phoning to tell you about a new event I'd like to invite you to. is it a good time to talk now? And if they say no, which they will do quite a lot of the time, you say, okay, I understand. When would be a good time to call back? And you say, well, they say, can you send an email? And you say, well, that's why I'm calling. I sent you an email a few days ago. I'm just phoning to see if you've received it and tell you about the invitation to this event. So always ask, is now a convenient time to call? And this is what we did with the phoning people at home, by the way. You phone them up and they say, look, I'm just calling to invite you to, I'm telling you about, and is it now a good time to call? If you're an estate agent, a real estate property agent, and somebody acquired on a property like 6 months ago, and you call them one morning and you say, I'm just phoning from Phelps's estate agents. I want to see if you're still in the market for a property. Is it convenient to talk now? Try that, and I'm sure you will find that will work. Speak slowly and calmly, and before you do a lot of talking or questions, simply say, have I caught you at a convenient moment? I just need a few minutes on the phone with you. Um, Another good question. You guys are really making me think here. One more, I think, would be enough for before the break, Anisha. I don't want to
Sure.
keep
So
people for refreshments. So, yeah,
I understand. So I saw two people asking the same question, and
yeah.
they want to know what is the difference between the sales and the marketing department in an organization.
Okay. Good question. What is the relationship between sales and marketing? Well, let me tell you a few instances. Both departments think they are the most important department in the business. Marketing are convinced that selling couldn't be done without marketing, and the salespeople are convinced that selling is everything, and the marketing people don't really do very much. And I've been head of marketing and I've been head of sales, so I know the two differences. What they should do is they should like a football team, okay? They should play together and play together nicely. So you've got the defense and you've got the attack. And I think that the marketing should be the foundation for selling. And selling in many ways is the front line of marketing. So the marketing designs great products. It creates the brochures, the campaigns, the advertising. It does the market research. It analyzes competitors, and it feeds that information and those initiatives into the sales team. And the sales team fine tune and focus that information and those promotional items into the customer base. So, for example, let's take an exhibition. We're talking about the exhibition. The marketing come up with a series of PDFs and a website to promote the exhibition. And it's got lots of great copy and nice pictures. And the pricing model is very attractive. If you go ahead now, you get the stand for 50%. If you wait 3 months, you'll pay more for your stand. This is a very good technique, and marketing have invented it. What salespeople have to do is then contact the customers, present the information, and actually gain the commitment. So, in reality, just like a football team, no one's going to win the game without the other players on the pitch. So, regular conversations and communication between the two is really important. And I remember reading about one company who had a real problem with their marketing and sales divisions just not communicating. And every time there was something wrong in the sales figures or something wasn't working, they all blamed each other. Marketing would go, yeah, but it's the salespeople, they're rubbish. And the salespeople would go, yeah, but we can't sell, the marketing's no good. And all they did is they put the two divisions and two teams of people in the same office on the same floor. Now, to start with, there was a little bit of unfriendliness, but because they were like desk to desk, they began to build their relationships, they began to communicate, and the joint working really happened very, very quickly. So, to me, you've got to get your marketing right first. Otherwise, you're just sending the salespeople out and it's not effective. But when you've got your marketing right, good salespeople will make it happen. And this is true, by the way, in the examples we're talking about. Retail sales, everyone's selling the same store layout, the same price, the same products. Some branches, some salespeople will sell 2 or 3 times the sales per month of the normal average branch or salesperson, even with the same pricing, the same product, and the same marketing. That's because they make the marketing come alive. So on that thought, let's pause there. We've got 30 minutes for a break. I'm just going to hand back to Anisha, and I will see you guys in 30 minutes for some more wisdom about sales planning. Anisha, you
Thank
there?
you. Yeah, I'm here, and
Jolly
thank you
good.
so much for answering all the questions. So yeah, like you mentioned, guys, we are going on a 30 minutes break now. And once you guys are back, we'll start with the second half of today's session. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. See you later. Bye-bye.